Welcome, everybody. We are finally wrapping up the King of Kings breakdown series. Thanks, everybody, for watching this. Hopefully, you've taken something out of this. Thanks, Patron Tim, for suggesting this. Hopefully, you enjoyed this series, a very long version of maybe what you were asking about. Today, I've left this at the very, very end because this section, or this really, there isn't really a concept there. This section is the hardest one I feel like to explain, but I'll try my best to explain away in a way that you guys can understand. Okay, so let's go right into it. Just to recap, we talked about extensions, we talked about parallel harmony, we talked about descending bass line, we talked about mode mixture borrowing from minor keys, we talked about secondary dominant, we talked about changing keys to minor keys, we talked about bass pedal. Oh, that's a lot. Pretty much almost everything that I have done for this reharm. Today we're gonna talk about the chorus. Let me play for you the original chorus if you're not familiar already. Let me play for the original chorus and then play for you my version. Here's the original. Oops. So it's a very simple harmonies. You got one chord, 4, 6, 5, 1, 4, 6, 4, 5. And also the melody is very simple as well, which is great, like, for a worship setting. When I heard this, I had a couple thoughts about the chorus, the chords of the choruses, because I felt them to be a little too straightforward again, like for my purpose, for the Lo-Fi remix. So here is what I've done. I'll give you a little bit of a setup to it. Okay, so there's a lot of things going on in here. The overall approach that I've done in here, it's actually not so much theoretical. As in, I didn't really take in concept like, descending bass line, ascending bass line, parallel harmony, whatever. I didn't really think about that from that perspective. This is one, I guess, like a general approach is just whatever you feel like you want to do. Pretty much, and whatever sound that you feel like you're going for. And I guess this is one of the most advanced type of reharmonization, and obviously I'm not super good at it, but if you really listen to jazz musicians and reharmonization like Jacob Collier and those kind of people, like, to be honest, I don't think they're thinking about parallel harmony, parallel minor, relative minor. They just play whatever they feel like playing at that spot, and whatever they imagine the chord to sound like, they just play it. And obviously, I'm not there yet, so it took me some time to figure out what chord I'd like to play. But essentially, what I've done for the chorus is I try my best to see what kind of chords I'd like, and there's a lot of experimentation. And so I'll explain some of the choices I've made if I can remember them, and I'll walk you through in that. So in general, there's not much of a one principle to use. Okay, so. Let's get away one of the simpler parts of the song. So this is the first part. This is the weird part, and then this is the weird part as well. This here, this is more like a concept, more like there's a rule to this, or there's like a tip to this. This is the opposite of descending bass line, which is ascending bass line. So I think what my thought process was, I know at that point it was supposed to be a B minor chord. I changed this to like a G major 7 over B, which is just an inversion of G major 7. I like that sound. And then what I've done is I know I needed to go back to D. I wanted to end on D. but I don't like using just a standard way of doing it. So what I've done is, well, there's that. I can just do ascending bass line, which is opposite of descending bass line. So the concept's the same. I'll just play for you. The G major 7 over B, C over D, sorry, no, D over C, A over C sharp. Simple. Okay, let's talk about a couple of other chords. Let's start with the first chord that we have. The first chord originally starts on the 1. When I first heard that, I thought it felt too straightforward to me, especially when you ended that previous section, you're already on the 1 chord for like 2 bars. And then if you continue on the 1 chord, it seems that there isn't much movement there. It seems like you're just starting the 1 chord again. So I thought I wanted something else other than 1 chord. Well, what can I do? I can do, if I just want to stick with the key, I can do a 2 chord, I can do a 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord. I have all these options. I know I don't want to do anything that's very closely related to the 1 because it won't sound too different. So I don't want the 3. I don't want the parallel of that. I don't want the B minor. I don't want that because it sounds too much like the 1 chord in function. So I thought about, well, the only thing left is really the 5 chord. Do I want to start with the 5 chord? No, I don't want to start with the 5 chord. It sounds too dominant. It sounds too strong. So I'm just really left with the 4 chord or the 2 chord. And so I've decided on the 4 chord. I like the 4 chord. It gives you a little bit of tension. It also fits with the melody quite well. And it's quite pretty because the melody and the chord together, it makes this sort of G major 9 kind of a shape, which is a very pretty shape. So whenever you go with, changing chords without really like any rule hidden, you just choose whatever chord you feel like doing. You always have to account for what the melody is and what that chord ends up being. And obviously whether it works. In this case, I feel like it works quite well in my setting. So that's what I've done. I've chosen the 4 chord, but I ran into a problem because originally the second bar is also the 4 chord. Praise the Father, praise the Son. Well, I only really have another option, which is the 2, which is the parallel of that. And I like that sound. That sounds right to me. Again, so this is the overriding principle is whatever sounds right is right. Whatever sounds nice is nice. I probably could have done like a C chord as well, but maybe that's too much. So, and then I finally landed on the 1. I probably could have done the original B minor as well. Let's see how that would sound. I think I made the choice to go to the 1 chord because I liked more than I didn't really like that note with the B minor, so I kept it as 1. So theoretically, this is just the parallel harmony of B minor, which is the original. Again, that's not really what I'm thinking. Okay, and then we get to this really interesting chord. To be honest, when I play this, I think part of it is accident, and part of it is I'm looking for something that tries to communicate the 3-in-1-ness, which I don't think I've done, but I'm just trying to come up with a chord that's somewhere out there, somewhere that's more mysterious, somewhere random, because 3-in-1, then that's the lyrics. 3-in-1 is a very foreign, very mysterious, very hard concept to comprehend. So that's why I thought, why don't I just throw something that absolutely does not make sense whatsoever? Actually, it does make sense a little, but in the concept of things, especially hearing, that's very jarring. So that's pretty much what I'm thinking. If you really want to explain it away, I'm playing a B flat 7. The reason why B flat 7 I'll talk about in a second. B flat 7, and then this F sharp, you can count it as a sharp 5. This is more jazz terminology now. So the sharp 5. And since we have a sharp 5, why don't we put the flat 9? So just put a bunch of extensions that is outside of the key. So we're totally outside of the key already. And then once we get to the E, this is sharp 11. Here, this is the 11, the sharp 11. And this is much more like jazz harmony, to be honest. Once you alter the dominant chord in this kind of a setting, this is more jazz harmony. And so that's another video. This is very difficult to explain to you at this point. But the concept really is just, technically, any dominant 7th chord, you can alter as many extensions as you need, and it will sound all right. And so I wanted something that's dissonant. I wanted something that's out there. So I could have picked any dominant chord and try to see what works. And I think when I was experimenting, this ended up to be the one that sounds the most foreign, 3-in-1, And this is all explainable because the next chord I decided to go is, well, I can just drop it down to a half step and resolve it to here. Which is usually what these dominant 7 chords are used for in jazz. Is, when you have such an altered chord, you would resolve it down a half step, or you resolve it down a fifth, which is the normal version. You resolve it down a half step, or you're going to resolve it down a fifth. This is called tritone substitution, another video. But you would resolve it like this. You would resolve it down a half step. And I thought, well, why don't I do that for the next part? So I ended up with a sort of like a A sus chord again, like a D over A. And I thought, oh, that's fine, because I didn't want to do 2 of these in the same way. So here's what we have so far. Change it to G major 7, and then the parallel, and then to 1. Here's the weird chord. Resolve. So a lot of tension. Resolve. And then here, another fatal attempt, another sort of not very successful attempt at trying to match the word majesty. And again, I'm looking for something that's very out of the world kind of thing, very not explainable at the moment. And I needed something that's more bright. So I don't want to use anything that's minor key, like borrowing from the minor key. I don't want to use, because technically I could have done it. Because that's the minor version. That's borrowing from the darker side, and not the darker side. Father of lights, he's the bright side, the majesty. So again, a lot of experimentation, and then I knew I needed something with a sharp 4 on it, because to me that sounds like a bright sound. I needed something that's related to this kind of a sound. And so what I ended up coming up with is basically in essence is a G sharp diminished 7th with the melody on the top. But you can see it actually doesn't really work super well. There is theory that explains away this, but at this point I'm just thinking whatever chord that fits the best for my taste. So technically you can explain away these ones. These are G sharp diminished 7 with a sharp 11. With the 11. This is just in the key. This is a G sharp diminished, G sharp diminished with a major 7. This is a thing in jazz harmony. And then that went to G major 7 over B, which has nothing, it's not related whatsoever. Again, it's just going by whatever sound I like. Okay, so recap. 2, 1. This weird thing. Okay, I don't know whether that was of much help at all, to be honest, because really the guiding principle here is whatever chord that I ended up, playing around with and experimenting, trying a lot of trial and error, and whatever that felt right for that sound is whatever I end up using. Some of it is just feeling, like for example, I didn't want to stay on the 1 chord or start on the 1 chord again, so I changed it to a 4 chord. Some of it is theory, some of it, like, you know, knowing that, you know, at the dominant 7th chord you can change a lot of the extensions and you can resolve it down. But you know, a lot of it really is just trial and error. I keep hitting the mic. Trial and error, whatever that fits nicely. At some point in time, if it's not explainable by theory, but it seems right to your ears, then you can just play it. You don't, not everything has to be explained by theory, because it's really the other way around, right? Because theory is used for explaining things, not that you have to play something that's explainable. Like that's the concept, right? Study of music theory, like what we were talking about, is to explain things and to replicate things much easier, because you have a terminology for it. You know, parallel harmony, tritone sub, you know, extensions. You put a name to something that you like, and then you try. So in that sense, then you can try to replicate it and teach people. But that's never the guiding principle. Like, I have to play something that's explainable. Like that shouldn't be the guiding principle of, especially composition or, you know, reharmonization in jazz. So so this is really what this is. I play something that I like. I don't think it's explainable. You could explain it, but that's not my intention. It's not to come up with something that's theoretically correct or explainable. And then after you play it, you like it, you try your best to see what you like about it, and then you can replicate it. But again, the guiding principle for this chorus is just whatever felt right, whatever sounded right, whatever fit the text for me, and I just rolled with it. So hopefully this is interesting to you. It's been a good ride to go through the song. Hopefully you've learned something from this. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you want more videos like this, let me know in the comment section down below. I seriously consider doing more of these if you are interested. I also have more music and more video lessons coming out. I am thinking to do more videos that's a little bit simpler, a little bit more for beginners, because I realized for the past good amount of videos I've been doing a lot of reharm, and I know that that's a little bit more difficult to understand for some of you guys. So I'm gonna go back a little bit to basics, talk about maybe a little bit of worship piano and how we can play those and stuff like that. If you're interested, if you enjoy these content, subscribe to the channel. Consider supporting me on Patreon. You can ask me questions there. You can ask for video requests there, and I have extra resources for you on that platform as well. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.